In this podcast episode, Ben Shapiro discusses the ongoing conflict between Israel and Gaza, asserting that Israel's war is a just war. He delves into the complexities of the conflict, the historical context, and the broader implications for both Israel and the Western world. The conversation covers a range of topics, including the justification for Israel's actions, the tactics employed by Hamas, the public relations battle, and the rise of anti-Israel sentiment. Shapiro begins by arguing that Israel has the sovereign right to defend itself when a terrorist group like Hamas crosses its borders, slaughters citizens, and takes hostages. He emphasizes that the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is deeply rooted and complex, with enmities dating back decades. He questions the justification for Hamas's actions, highlighting the group's strategy of hiding among civilians to maximize casualties and garner international sympathy. The discussion then shifts to the media coverage of the conflict. Shapiro acknowledges that while Israel may be winning the military war, it is losing the public relations war. He notes that the constant media coverage, especially in the age of social media, brings the horrors of war directly to people's screens, leading to increased scrutiny and criticism. He points out that the Western public's attention span is short, and the continuous coverage of suffering can quickly lead to outrage and calls for intervention. Shapiro discusses the practical aspects of the conflict, focusing on security failures and the need for better intelligence resources on the ground. He explains that Israel's response is driven by the necessity to protect its citizens from terrorist attacks and to dismantle Hamas's infrastructure. He argues that the long-standing enmity between Israelis and Palestinians is not easily solvable and suggests that the most likely outcome in Gaza is a situation similar to the West Bank, with Israeli military rule and Palestinian civil control. Shapiro addresses the broader anti-Israel sentiment seen in protests and on college campuses. He attributes this sentiment to a coalition of groups who view Israel as a symbol of Western exploitation and oppression. He highlights the intersection of left-wing and Islamic anti-Semitism in these protests and argues that the demonization of Israel is rooted in a belief that successful countries are exploiters and oppressors. He challenges the narrative that Israel's success comes at the expense of Palestinians, citing the economic prosperity of Israeli Arabs compared to those in Hamas-controlled Gaza. He expresses concern over the level of support for Hamas among Western populations, highlighting the danger of people marching in solidarity with a group that openly advocates for violence and terrorism, suggesting that this reflects a broader, concerning worldview for the West. In response to criticism that the Daily Wire, where he works, is biased towards Israel, Shapiro points out that there are hosts on the platform with differing views on the issue. He acknowledges that his personal perspective on Israel may influence his coverage, but emphasizes the importance of defending a state created for the safety of Jews. Shapiro also addresses criticism from figures like Tucker Carlson and Andrew Tate, noting a trend towards isolationist sentiments on the right. He points out similarities between this perspective and the victimhood narratives often seen on the left, where certain groups are portrayed as being left behind by powerful forces. The discussion delves into the rise of open anti-Semitism, with Shapiro expressing alarm at the resurgence of anti-Jewish sentiments, particularly in online spaces. He stresses the importance of recognizing and addressing this issue, especially as it relates to his own identity as someone who is Jewish. Shapiro explores the phenomenon of being transgressive as a form of bravery, where individuals push boundaries and say controversial things to elicit reactions. He points out the dangers of this approach, where people prioritize being provocative over presenting well-reasoned arguments. The conversation touches on masculinity and the changing perceptions of manhood in modern society. He discusses the rise of figures like Andrew Tate, who appeal to young men feeling marginalized in society and offer a sense of community without real obligations. Shapiro emphasizes the importance of traditional values and responsibilities in defining masculinity, contrasting it with the superficial image of manhood promoted by figures like Tate. He highlights the need for men to take responsibility, commit to relationships, and contribute positively to their communities. Shapiro reflects on the impact of the internet and social media on society, noting how it has rewired our brains and created a disconnect from real-world communities. He stresses the importance of turning off phones, disconnecting from online echo chambers, and engaging in meaningful interactions within physical communities. He acknowledges the decline of religious institutions as a source of values and community, posing a challenge for individuals seeking to fill that void in secular society. The conversation also touches on the role of AI in shaping societal norms and behaviors based on online interactions. Shapiro warns of the dangers of AI learning from the online world, which may perpetuate negative trends and behaviors. He underscores the need for individuals to prioritize real-world interactions and values over virtual communities and online personas. Throughout the podcast, Shapiro maintains that Israel's actions are justified in the face of terrorism and that the broader anti-Israel sentiment is often rooted in misconceptions and ideological biases. He calls for a more nuanced understanding of the conflict and a recognition of the legitimate security concerns that drive Israel's policies. The discussion ultimately highlights the complexities of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the broader challenges facing Western societies in addressing issues of terrorism, anti-Semitism, and the impact of digital media on public perception.